Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court unanimously upholds the abrogation of Article 370. COP28 in Dubai witnesses the launch of the India-led Global River Cities Alliance. The International Energy Agency releases the report titled A Policy Toolkit for Implementing LIFE. The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change launches the Indian Forest and Wood Certification Scheme. The Financial Stability Board releases the Financial Stability Implications of Multifunction Crypto Assets Intermediaries report. The RBI releases the annual report titled State Finances, a Study of Budgets of 2023-24. Starting with the first main news. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court has unanimously upheld abrogation of Article 370. In 2019, the central government revoked the special status of Jammu and Kashmir by abolishing Article 370 of the Constitution and consequently Article 35A. Herein, the Article 370 restricted centre's legislative powers with respect to the state. And the Article 35A defined permanent residents of state and their special rights and privileges. Let's have a look at the key highlights of the judgment. The Supreme Court said that the Jammu and Kashmir did not retain any element of sovereignty after its accession to India in 1947 and has always been an integral part of India. It further said that the Article 370 is a temporary and a transitional provision until the Constituent Assembly of State was formed. The court upheld the presidential proclamations of 2019 that effectively abrogated Article 370 and gave a new meaning to the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir as the Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. The court further directed the Election Commission of India to conduct assembly elections by September 30, 2024 and the centre to restore the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir soon. The court also recommended the setting up of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Jammu and Kashmir. It will investigate and report on violation of human rights by both state and non-state actors perpetrated in Jammu and Kashmir at least since 1980s and recommend measures for reconciliation. Before we conclude this news, let's understand the potential impact of this judgment. It will be impactful in giving voting rights to the West Pakistan refugees. It will also be a step in the reservation of seats for Kashmiri Pandits and the displaced people from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Also, people as well as investors outside Jammu and Kashmir will now be able to purchase land. In another news, the India-led Global River Cities Alliance has been launched at COP28 in Dubai. The National Mission for Clean Ganga has signed a Memorandum of Common Purpose with Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative representing 124 cities or towns situated along the banks of Mississippi River in the United States of America. This led to the launch of Global River Cities Alliance as the current River Cities Alliance has now expanded its strength to membership of 267 global river cities including India, USA and Denmark. Modeled on the lines of India's River Cities Alliance, the Global River Cities Alliance Secretariat role would be served by the National Mission for Clean Ganga under the Ministry of Jal Shakti and the National Institute for Urban Affairs under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Let's understand more about the River Cities Alliance or RCA. It was established in 2021 by the National Mission for Clean Ganga. It is a joint initiative of Ministry of Jal Shakti and Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs to connect river cities and focus on sustainable river-centric development. Its significance lies in the fact that it will aid making river basin cities water sensitive for improved river health. It also seeks to strengthen governance of river cities and improve their livability to attract external economic investments. Additionally, it promotes urban river management plans and city-specific sectoral strategies for sustainable urban river management. And it will also support member cities in implementation of SDG 6, which is about clean water and sanitation. Moving on to the next news, the report titled A Policy Toolkit for Implementing LIFE has been released by the International Energy Agency. The report provides concrete policy toolkit for advancing mission life or lifestyle for environment implementation at the different levels such as countries, subnational jurisdictions and individuals. Mission Life is an India-led global mass movement which aims to protect and preserve the environment. It was introduced at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of Parties 26. Under it, at least 1 billion Indians and other global citizens will be mobilized to take individual and collective actions by adopting circular economy approach. Its time period is from the year 2022 to 2028. It has 3 phases, namely changing, demand, supply and policy. So what are the expected impacts of implementing Mission Life? Well, firstly, energy and emissions. It would reduce the annual CO2 emissions of 2 billion tons at the world level by the year 2030. Secondly, air pollution. It would also aid around 60% of reduction in sulfur dioxide emissions from behavioral changes. Also, it could create around 17 million clean energy jobs globally by 2030, and it will stimulate about $1.6 trillion in clean energy investments. Also, it tends to reduce the global inequalities in per capita energy consumption. In another news, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has launched the Indian Forest and Wood Certification Scheme. The Indian Forest and Wood Certification Scheme is a national forest certification scheme of India and is designed to promote sustainable forest management and sustainable management of trees outside forest in the country. It offers voluntary third-party certifications. Let's understand more about the certification scheme. It provides market incentives to various entities like state forest departments or individual farmers that adhere to responsible forest management and agroforestry practices in their operation. It is applicable across the country, both in forest areas and trees outside forest plantations on government, private, agroforestry and other lands. The certification is applicable for both timber and non-timber forest produce. The scheme includes 3 types of certifications, namely Forest Management Certification, Trees Outside Forest Management Certification, and Chain of Custody Certification. Herein, the Forest Management Certification is based on the Indian Forest Management Standard consisting of 8 criteria, which is an integral part of National Working Plan Code 2023. Now, to implement the scheme, there are certain institutional arrangements. Herein, the Indian Forest and Wood Certification Council will act as a multi-stakeholder advisory body. Additionally, the Indian Institute of Forest Management, Bhopal, will act as the operating agency and will be responsible for the overall management of the scheme. Plus, the National Accreditation Board for certification bodies under the Quality Council of India will accredit certification bodies to carry out independent audits of various entities. In another news, the financial stability implications of multifunction crypto asset intermediaries report has been released by the Financial Stability Board. Before we look into the news, let's first understand some basics about Financial Stability Board. It is an international body that monitors and makes recommendations about the global financial system. It is headquartered in Basel, Switzerland, and India is also its member. Coming back to the news, multifunction crypto asset intermediaries are integral part of the crypto asset ecosystem. A crypto asset is a digital representation of value or a right that can be transferred or stored electronically using distributed ledger technology such as blockchain. The multifunction crypto asset intermediaries are individual firms or groups of affiliated firms that offer a range of crypto-based services, products and functions which primarily revolve around operating the trading platform. Examples of such intermediaries include Binance, Bitfinex and Coinbase. These intermediaries have created new opportunities such as lower cost of access to crypto asset markets, diversifying investment programs along with lending and borrowing. However, there are certain concerns related with the multifunction crypto asset intermediaries or MCIs. These include the market-related vulnerabilities like market dominance, concentration of one particular MCI, and liquidity mismatch. Another concern is the technology and operational vulnerabilities such as cyber attacks. The MCI vulnerabilities could spill over to the traditional financial system and the economy. Also, they lack effective governance and risk management frameworks to manage the aforementioned vulnerabilities. Additionally, their revenue sources are unclear because of the limited publicly disclosed information. Having said this, there are certain recommendations in this regard. These include adopting a global regulatory framework for crypto asset activities and enhancing cross-border cooperation and information sharing. Additionally, mandatory disclosure and reporting of assets and other aspects to bring transparency is also recommended. Moving on to the next news, the RBI has released the annual report titled State Finances, a Study of Budgets of 2023-24. Let's have a look at the key highlights of the report. The report says that the state's consolidated gross fiscal deficit to gross domestic product ratio declined from 4.1% in 2020-21 to 2.8% in 2021-22. It was mainly due to the implementation of prudent fiscal policies and the rise in tax income and non-tax revenues. Also, the implementation of the goods and services tax has led to increased tax buoyancy for the states. A tax is said to be buoyant if the tax revenue increases more than proportionately in response to a rise in the national income or output. The report also highlighted that rising trend among states to revert to old pension scheme from existing new pension system would exert a huge burden on their finances. Also, high burden of subsidies impacts fiscal consolidation. Having said this, there are certain measures that have been suggested to strengthen the state finances. These include the financial incentive to those states that initiate measures to boost tax revenue collections, plus asset monetization for the states to increase non-tax revenue has been suggested. Asset monetization is the process of creating new sources of revenue by unlocking the economic value of unutilized or underutilized public assets. Additionally, there is a recommendation for integrating climate finance into broader fiscal planning of the states. The place in the news for today is Slovenia. Recently, the 23rd meeting of the Barcelona Convention took place in Slovenia. The convention provides for the protection of the Mediterranean Sea against pollution. Slovenia, with its capital Ljubljana, is located in the Central Europe. It borders Italy to the west, Austria to the north, Croatia to south, and Hungary in the northeast. It also borders with the Adriatic Sea. Coming to its geographical features, its physiographic regions include the European Alps, the Karstic Dinaric Alps, the Pannonian and the Danubian lowlands and hills, and the Mediterranean coast. Its highest point is the Mount Triglav, and its major rivers are Sava, Drava, and Mura. As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. US, India, and Taiwan have convened a cybersecurity workshop to foster operational expertise and sharing best practices under the Global Cooperation and Training Framework. The framework was launched by US and Taiwan in 2015 as a platform to utilize Taiwan's strength and expertise to address global issues. WIMBAX 2023 is a joint military exercise between armed forces of India and Vietnam. The Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship's data showed that 21.15 lakh applications were received under the PM Vishwakarma scheme. The scheme was launched in 2023 to enhance accessibility and quality of products and services offered by traditional artisans. The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has revealed the 3 pillars of LEAD IT, or the Leadership Group for Industry Transition 2.0, at the LEAD IT Summit 2023 held at COP28. The LEAD IT was launched by India and Sweden in 2019. Researchers at IIT Madras, Columbia University, and Colorado State developed a sustainable plastic recycling technique known as Universal Dynamic Crosslinker. Universal Dynamic Crosslinker avoids the need for deconstruction and reconstruction of plastics and successfully blends usually incompatible plastics. Tribals relocated from the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve participated in protest, urging the government to rectify consequences of their unlawful resettlement within the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. The Tiger Reserve is located in the Nilgiri district of Tamil Nadu. The Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, has developed a technology called Amrit for the removal of arsenic and metal ions from water. The technology uses nanoscale iron oxyhydroxide, which selectively removes arsenic when water is passed through it. Recently, the Prime Minister launched the Viksit Bharat at 2047 Voice of Youth initiative. It will provide a platform to the youth of the country to contribute ideas to the vision of Viksit Bharat at 2047. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.